front of the Murrah building as they continue to try to find anybody that may still be trapped inside.
It was from Ranger 9 this morning at about 9:05. About 5 minutes after we heard the explosion, that we saw our first picture of the Alfred Murrah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City as Ranger 9 swung around from the south. We could see that there was some damage to the south side of the building, windows blown out, but we had no idea just how enormous the devastation was until Ranger 9 swung around to the north side, which is the front of the federal building, and exposed that gaping hole left by what was apparently a massive car bomb.
We talked before with the Assistant Fire Chief John Hanson of the Oklahoma City Fire Department about the fact that they would continue to work on this rescue effort throughout the night with portable lights and generators. You saw some of those going up now. As we've talked about earlier, the difficulty is going to be getting those lights higher than the second or third level of that building, and I'm sure that they'll be working on getting equipment in that can do that. But our understanding is that this rescue effort will go on through the night and could last several days. Although that's a difficult thing for the crews involved, it's better than the news we got at one point that there might not be anybody left alive inside of that building. So the fact that they are continuing to work indicates to us that they believe they have survivors inside. And so while they're in a difficult situation, it's better than not finding anybody having survived.
About 4:20 this afternoon, President Clinton went on with a national news conference to talk about what had happened here at Oklahoma City. And I have to tell you, quite frankly, it was very strange sitting here at the news desk listening to him talking about this terrorist attack in Oklahoma City. Let's hear what he had to say.
It was an act of cowardice, and it was evil. The United States will not tolerate it, and I will not allow the people of this country to be intimidated by evil cowards. I have met with our team, which we assembled to deal with this bombing, and I have determined to take the following steps to assure the strongest response to this situation. First, I have deployed a crisis management brigade.
That the enormous explosion of the federal building in Oklahoma City this morning was the work of terrorists. The bomb went off just as hundreds of people and teams worked their way through the devastation. We do know that 17 children were killed in the daycare center, others injured. It was easy to see why the governor of Oklahoma said this was the work of animals. Our first report is from Aaron Hayes, who was on the scene.
Smoke floors and the offices inside. Most devastating of all, the daycare center on the second floor destroyed. That was where most of the children who were killed had been.
We pulled probably, I guess we pulled 6 dead babies out and a couple of dead women. And it's just the most devastating. Everything fell on top of it. It's the most devastating thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's just like an atomic bomb went off. The ceiling went in and all the windows came in. And
I didn't know if it was a tornado or an earthquake. The whole building shook, and then everything just started crashing down on top of you, and you just kind of hit the floor and waited till it all stopped. This is the main triage area.
For hours, the scene here remained chaotic. People injured by exploding glass and debris stood dazed, looking for help. It was difficult to find enough ambulances to take care of all of them.
I never experienced anything like it. You feel the concussions, it was really amazing.
Authorities now say it appears to have been a car bomb in a vehicle parked in front of the federal building that caused the explosion. The force from it damaged buildings nearby and was felt 30 miles away. Rescue work has made it clear just how much damage was done. Whole sections of floors collapsed.
you can see on the upper floors in one of those offices there are some people trapped up there. They were up there for quite some time while we were there. You can see the firefighter there climbing up a ladder, trying to get as close as possible to those people, but he was shy about 2 floors. Very frustrating for him, I'm sure. There's no way to get up there.
It has taken all afternoon for rescuers to recover bodies here. People were trapped inside for hours, and some are still believed trapped here.
We've got some people alive that are trapped beneath rubble that is kind of pancake land at an angle, and it's going to take some very large, heavy equipment to assist us in moving that. So
emergency workers were overwhelmed. For a long time, there was no one to explain what had happened or who had survived it.
We've had a lot of little rocky things getting our way. We found a rocket that was in a bunker inside the building that had fallen down, and the bomb squad secured that. But again, we're just systematically going through the building. We do still have people, survivors inside the building that we are attempting to get out this time.
I just woke up and I was covered in glass. I didn't know what was going on. I just got out.
And came out and looked, and I saw all of this black smoke and everything, and I ran up here, and then I saw all of the injured children.
As a precaution, all of the city's state and federal workers were sent home. Buildings around the explosion site evacuated.
Let's be sure everybody else we can relax, okay?
With workers still sifting through debris, it is unclear when this section of the city might return to normal. Late today, Oklahoma's Governor Frank Keating said the state is in mourning, and he made a vow to honor the dead and living, he said, by finding out just who did this. Aaron Hayes, ABC News, Oklahoma City.
President Clinton came out late this afternoon to make a statement on the bombing. He did not take any questions, but he certainly made promises about what will happen to the killers when they're found. Here's ABC's Good News.
President Clinton was meeting with Turkish Prime Minister Çiller less than an hour after the explosion when he got the news of it from Press Secretary Mike McCurry. It was a stern and angry president who appeared late this afternoon to make a statement.
The bombing in Oklahoma City was an attack on innocent children, and it was evil. The United States will not tolerate it, and I will not allow the people of this country to be intimidated by evil cowards.
The president said he'd sent a crisis response team to Oklahoma and declared a federal emergency in Oklahoma City. He seemed both confident and determined that the criminal investigation would succeed.
Let there be no room for doubt. We will find the people who did this. When we do, justice will be swift, certain, and severe. These people are killers, and they must be treated like killers.
It was left to Attorney General Reno to outline the details of the sweeping FBI investigation the president had ordered, including a mobile command post, 8 evidence teams, bomb squads from 6 cities, and about the explosion, who did it or why. But it was clear from everything she and the president said that they are treating this as if it were a terrorist attack. This is not the kind of investigation that would be ordered for anything less. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
The police are very interested in finding 3 men who were allegedly seen speeding north out of Oklahoma City. The FBI has put out an all-points bulletin, an APB you'll hear it referred to. That's a message to police departments all across the region with details of what the 3 men look like, and in this case, what they may be driving. Here's ABC's John McCracken.
Within hours of the explosion, local police and the FBI had issued the all-points bulletin looking for 3 men believed to be of Middle Eastern origin driving in a brown pickup truck registered in Dallas. National Car Rental Company confirmed that the FBI had been talking to them about a rental truck fitting that description. The fact that it was such a powerful bomb and open of choice in the region for decades, and in recent years the skillful bomb makers of the region have exported their skills and often their extremist hatreds all over the world. The first horrible evidence of that in the United States was the World Trade Center bombing in 1993. Officials estimate the charge that ripped into the federal building in Oklahoma City was the equivalent of more than 1,000 pounds of dynamite, similar to the blast that terrorists used at the World Trade Center.
This is something professional, and it really implies that the person who constructed the explosive device had experience, was trained in the use of explosives, knew what they were doing.
The FBI and other federal agencies are setting up a massive task force in Oklahoma City. Sources say the FBI has been watching dozens of suspicious Islamic groups in cities throughout the American Southwest, and several right in Oklahoma City.
As a further indication of where the investigation is headed, ABC News has learned that the FBI has asked the U.S. military to provide up to 10 Arabic speakers to help in the investigation. The FBI says all options continue to be open, though on this first day at least, it appears that much of the FBI's energy is focused in just one direction. John McCarthy, ABC News, the Pentagon.
In a moment, we'll talk to the governor of Oklahoma, Governor Frank Keating. We'll have a report on how rescue workers are moving to reach those still trapped in the building, and the security alert at federal offices all around the country. This is Lone, and federal officials have moved quickly to the emergency in Oklahoma City, sending teams of rescue workers and a great many investigators. Here's ABC's Lisa Scott.
Oklahoma City, like any city, cannot handle a disaster of this size alone. It called in emergency and medical help from surrounding communities.
It's going to be a sustained effort, probably going to be 12 to 24 hours at least. So they're going to be rotating crews in and out. It's going to be very manpower intensive and very risky.
The president sent the head of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Time is very critical, and the faster we can get the people out of this, the better off they're going to be. The first 72 hours is the most critical part.
FEMA has 25 urban search and rescue teams located throughout the nation, few in the center of the country and none in Oklahoma.
Everybody has been processed, needs to meet in the auditorium as soon as possible.
The agency activated its Sacramento and Phoenix teams, local firefighters, doctors, structural engineers, and paramedics, who are specially trained in the delicate and dangerous work of searching collapsed buildings.
We've got microphones for looking through rubble. We've got heavy equipment, generators, food, water. It's just a something that can be self-sustaining for at least 4 to 5 days.
Part of the building has fallen on top of itself, which is called a pancake collapse. But inside there may be tent-like void spaces. ABC's Hal Bruno is a fire rescue expert.
If they can get there fast, in a reasonable amount of time, they've got a good chance of finding survivors inside the building where there are void spaces.
Experts say it could take at least 72 hours to search the entire building. The military is also lending a hand, with Oklahoma National Guard units, as well as a 66-person rescue and medical squad from nearby Tinker Air Force Base. 2 medevac helicopters have been deployed. So have 2 C-141s to transport the FEMA search teams. And a C-5 is standing by at Andrews Air Force Base to ferry an FBI team to Oklahoma City. Communications are critical in an emergency like this, so FEMA is also sending a mobile communications unit to set up 400 phones. Lisa Stark, ABC News, Washington.
Joining us now from Oklahoma City is the governor of Oklahoma, Frank Keating. Governor, we've spoken a couple of times today. Give us your very best estimate as to where you think the death toll is going.
Well, behind me, Peter, is a scene of unspeakable horror and tragedy. The death toll officially is 20. It's going to be significantly higher than that. The injury total is certainly well over 100. Those floors behind us have pancaked the north face of that building, one down upon another, one concrete floor upon another. And at 9 o'clock this morning when this occurred, these floors were filled with people. This was a very busy federal office building, and I'm afraid that toll is going to be significantly higher.
Governor, by now you must have some handle on how many people may still be in the building. Am I right?
Well, it varies. We think there could be upwards of 250 people unaccounted for, but that's still a very loose figure. We hope that more people got out than we think got out, but it occurred so quickly, and very few people had an opportunity to respond. It was a huge explosion. I even saw an axle 2 blocks away to the east from apparently the automobile that contained the bomb.
Now, you're standing on the north side of the building where the explosion occurred. Can you see evidence in the street that it was a car bomb?
Yeah, there's pieces of charred metal, heavy metal, all over within 2 city blocks to the east. The FBI indicated to me there was a possibility of 1 or 2 devices in 1 or 2 cars. Obviously, having the federal family here is going to be helpful. We have superb state investigators as well, and I'm very pleased with the president's response, and hopefully we'll not only find injured people that we can tend to, but also find the evil people that did this and never let them walk the streets again.
Governor Keating, thank you very much. You were certainly getting a lot of federal help on the way. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Peter.
Governor Frank Keating, governor of Oklahoma. Now, just as a disaster like this often brings out the best in people, as the governor referred to, it can also bring out the worst. There were telephone bomb threats made against various federal buildings in many cities today, and federal office buildings all across the country today were the scene of extra concern and increased security. Here's ABC's John Martin.
Of course, all the walking wounded bodies had been removed at that time, and it was just complete devastation. I've never seen devastation this bad, even in Vietnam or Desert Storm.
How does this make you feel about whoever may be responsible for this?
I'll just say bitter. That's all I'll say. But
Yeah, it's a bad situation all the way around. So many women and children and men, people here who lost their lives, and those inside who are waiting to be rescued will be here throughout the night watching and hoping with the fire department rescue crews as they go in and try to pull people out.
Thank you, Cynthia. And one of the important points that the Guardsman brings up there is that this was a huge bomb, bigger than the one that hit the World Trade Center. And we've been saying that it was a car bomb, but in all likelihood, I think I'm told by experts that we're going to find out that this was probably a van or a truck, something big enough to have hauled that size, that big poundage of materials to create that explosion.
The FBI, of course, is trying to piece all this together. If you have any information, especially if you were inside the building, they would like to hear from you. We've got a couple of phone numbers you can call, 297-2424. Please just call if you were in the building, inside the federal building downtown that blew up this morning. 297-2424 or 297-2345.
And those may be busy, we should point out, but they really, really need to hear from you if you were inside. That's the mayor's office downtown, and if you can't get through the first time, try again, because they are really in need of hearing from you.
Let's go to Newsline 9's Heidi Browning, who is also downtown. Has been covering this for us all day. Heidi?
Kelly, I have to tell you, I'm almost numb by what I've seen today. I was down in front of the building within a couple minutes of the explosion, and black smoke was just billowing out, and it was so thick it was hard to tell exactly which building was burning, and it took me a while to realize how much devastation there was down there. And whether or not whoever did this meant to or not, children have become one of the main targets of this destruction.
I thought it was an earthquake. That immediately came to my mind as an earthquake, and explosion or something like that was the furthest thing from my mind.
But quickly the shock of just such a catastrophe sunk in, and people realized the powerful explosion had ripped through the federal office building. The north side was destroyed. Jagged debris dangled down as smoke poured out into the street. People stared out of gaping holes that were once offices, and survivors stumbled outside dazed and bleeding. The disaster brought volunteers from everywhere, and people ran inside to try to save the victims. The daycare center was destroyed, with one floor crashing in on top of children and adults.
We pulled 5 little kids out and a couple of ladies.
Rescuers and emergency crews rushed in and set up triage units in the street. But then a second explosive was found, and everyone had to run for cover. And I have to tell you, that was one of the most frightening things that's ever happened to me. When we had to run this afternoon or this morning, I truly thought that at any moment there was going to be another explosion right behind us, and the glass was going to go everywhere again. So obviously a very emotional day for everyone down here. The devastation is just very, very hard to describe. I want to talk real briefly to a gentleman who just walked up, Jack Dockery. He said cousin was inside. Tell us what she said about what she saw.
Well, she was standing off the side of the building or side of the room, and the floor gave away. Then debris, and there was 8 people in the room, and her and another lady was off to the side, and the debris fell down on the 6 that the floor gave away, and the debris from the top came down and fell, and they couldn't film anymore because of black smoke and stuff like that.
Now, these are some of the stories that we've been hearing all day. Survivors who made their way out with just horrific stories of how the building crashed in around them. And just a little while ago, we did talk to a woman who has spent the day pulling bodies out of the building, and she fears the death toll will be in the hundreds. Kelly, Jennifer.
Heidi, it has been a very emotional day for just us here in the studio who have friends working in that building, but certainly for you all, the reporters who are down on the scene. It has been, we've heard voices shaking, I think, from everybody at one time or another. It's been a difficult day.
I just never thought in covering television news that I would be affected this much. I've never seen anything like this, and I think a lot of us are going to go home and have a good cry tonight.
Well, and, you know, I think one of the things that's been so hard is the fact that there are children involved, and I think that's one of the things that caused us to see our president as angry as I've ever seen him today. He took to the airwaves about a little bit after 4 o'clock this afternoon. He told us that he has ordered 3 terrorism teams here to Oklahoma City to work on this case. Just a couple of hours ago, he made this statement regarding this bombing at the federal building.
It was an act of cowardice, and it was evil. The United States will not tolerate it, and I will not allow the people of this country to be intimidated by evil cowards. I have met with our team, which we assembled to deal with this bombing, and I have determined to take the following steps to assure the strongest response to this situation. First, I have deployed a crisis management team under the leadership of the FBI, working with the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, military and local authorities. We are sending the world's finest investigators to solve these murders. Second, I have declared an emergency in Oklahoma City, and at my direction, James Lee Witt, the director of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is now on his way there to make sure we do everything we can to help the people of Oklahoma deal with the tragedy. Third, we are taking every precaution to reassure and to protect people who work in or live near other federal facilities. Let there be no room for doubt. We will find the people who did this. When we do, justice will be swift, certain, and severe. These people are killers, and they must be treated like killers. Finally, let me say that I ask all Americans tonight to pray. To pray for the people who have lost their lives. To pray for the families and the friends of the dead and the wounded. To pray for the people of Oklahoma City. May God's grace be with them. Meanwhile, we will be about our work. Thank you.
That work is finding out who was responsible for this terrible killer bombing that killed 17 children at the federal building in downtown Oklahoma City. That is the president making some statements on that about 4:15 this afternoon.
And Governor Frank Keating, in office for only a few months, today finds himself dealing with a national catastrophe.
Well, the most immediate concern, of course, is to make sure this doesn't recur. And I understand from news reports that there have been reports of 2 explosive devices, unexploded explosive devices found. So it's important for us to get the National Guard on the scene. It's important for us to get the law enforcement community on the scene, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, all of the authorities of the state to assist the Oklahoma City Police Department and the authorities in A, securing the area, obviously B, caring for the injured, and C, making sure that this does not recur.
That again from Governor Frank Keating just a short while ago, about an hour ago this afternoon.
Officials here, although nationally they're not confirming this, officials locally are telling us that the explosion at the federal building downtown was